The sun was slowly setting behind the hills, painting the wide ranch fields with a soft golden light. A warm breeze moved gently through the tall grass, making it look like the earth was breathing. Thomas stood on his porch, hands resting on the wooden rail, watching the sky change its colors. For most people, it was just another evening, but for Clara, it was the evening that would change everything. Clara walked slowly down the dirt road that led to Thomas's ranch. She was wearing a faded blue dress that had seen better days and holding a small bag with all she owned. Her shoes were thin, almost broken, but she didn't notice the discomfort anymore. Her heart was too full of fear and hope to feel anything else. She had spent the last 3 nights crying in silence, staring at the empty bed where her little girl Lily used to sleep. Lily was her world. From the moment she was born, Clara had done everything she could to keep her safe. But life had been hard on Clara. She had no family to lean on, no good job, and no savings. She worked at a small diner in town, barely making enough to pay rent. Some nights they went to bed hungry. Some winters their old heater didn't work, and Clara wrapped Lily in every blanket they had, holding her close to keep her warm. When she realized she couldn't give Lily the kind of life she deserved, Clara's heart broke. But she loved her daughter too much to let her suffer. That's when she met Thomas and Emma. Thomas was a kind rancher who had worked the land his whole life. He and his wife Emma couldn't have children of their own, but their home was filled with love, warmth, and space for more than just 2 people. They had always wanted to give a child a better future, and when they met Lily, they felt like their prayers had been answered. Lily, with her big brown eyes and bright smile, had a way of making people feel something deep inside. She was gentle, curious, and full of hope even when life had given her so little. The adoption was not forced. Clara had made the choice herself, but it was the hardest decision she had ever made. She had signed the papers with shaking hands. She had kissed Lily on the forehead, whispering, "This is for your future, baby." She had walked out of that house with tears streaming down her face, feeling like a part of her soul had been left behind. The first night without Lily was unbearable. Clara sat on the edge of her bed, holding Lily's old teddy bear, listening to the silence. Every corner of the small room reminded her of her little girl. The pink cup on the table, the tiny shoes by the door, the crayon marks on the wall. By the 3rd night, she couldn't take it anymore. Her heart screamed louder than her mind. She knew she couldn't just let go. She needed to see her daughter again. So now she was here, standing in front of Thomas's ranch gate. The ranch was big and beautiful. The fences were freshly painted white, and the house stood tall with wide windows and a porch wrapped around it. Horses grazed in the distance, their tails swaying in the wind. The smell of hay and warm earth filled the air. To most people, it was a place of peace. To Clara, it felt like a world far away from her own. She took a deep breath and walked forward. Her hands trembled as she reached the wooden gate. She hesitated. Part of her felt she didn't belong there. She was just a poor woman with nothing to offer. But another part of her, the mother inside her, refused to turn away. Thomas noticed her from the porch. He didn't recognize her right away in the fading light. But as she came closer, he saw the familiar face. He remembered her from the day they signed the papers. The woman who had given her little girl a better chance at life. The woman whose eyes had held both strength and sadness, Clara. Thomas called out gently, walking down the steps to meet her. She froze for a second. Her throat was tight. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft and shaky. "I'm sorry to come here like this. I had to see her." Thomas could see the pain in her eyes. He had always respected Clara for her strength. It wasn't easy for a mother to let go of her child for the child's own good. It was the kind of love most people didn't understand, the love that sacrifices everything. "Lily's inside with Emma," Thomas said kindly. "Would you like to see her?" Clara nodded, her lips trembling. "Just for a moment. I won't stay long." Thomas led her to the porch, and before long the door opened. Emma stepped out, holding little Lily's hand. The little girl's face lit up the moment she saw her mother. "Mommy!" Lily shouted, running into Clara's arms. Clara dropped her bag and knelt down, hugging Lily tightly. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered over and over, "I missed you. I missed you so much." Lily wrapped her tiny arms around her mother's neck. "I missed you too." For a few minutes, everything around them disappeared. The world was quiet except for the sound of Clara's quiet sobs and Lily's small laughter. Thomas and Emma stood a few steps away, watching silently. They knew this bond could never truly be broken. After some time, Clara slowly let go, brushing the hair away from Lily's face. "Are you happy here?" she asked softly. Lily nodded eagerly. "I have my own room, and a pony named Star. Emma reads me stories. I like it here, Mommy." Clara smiled, but her heart ached. She wanted her daughter to be happy, and she could see that she was. But she also felt like she was being left behind in a world she didn't belong to. As Lily ran inside to show Emma her drawing, Clara stayed on the porch with Thomas. The night air had grown cooler, and the sky was now filled with stars. Clara held her hands together, trying to gather the courage to say what she had been carrying inside her chest since the day she signed the papers. "Thomas," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I gave her up. I know I can't take that back. But I can't live without her. I tried. I really tried." Thomas listened quietly. He didn't interrupt. He could feel the weight in her words. "I'm not asking to take her away," Clara continued. "She's happy here, I see it. But she's all I have. And I'm nothing without her. I need to be near her, please." Her voice cracked and her eyes filled with tears again. "You adopted my daughter. Now you must take me too." The words hung in the air like a soft echo. Thomas was not a man who was easily moved, but something in Clara's voice struck a deep chord. He saw not a woman begging for comfort, but a mother holding on to the only piece of her heart she had left. Clara went on, her hands shaking. "I can work. I'm not asking for charity. I can clean, cook, help with the animals, anything. I just need to be close to her. I can't go back to that empty room. Not when I know she's here." Thomas took a slow breath. He had never been in a situation like this before. He and Emma had prepared to be parents to Lily, but they had never imagined that her birth mother would come back. Not like this. But as he looked into Clara's eyes, he didn't see a threat. He saw love. Pure, raw, and honest. Inside the house, Lily's laughter echoed through the open window. That sound, innocent and bright, reminded Thomas why he had chosen to adopt in the first place. He wanted to build a family. He wanted to give a child not just a roof but a home, and maybe, just maybe, home could mean more than what he had planned. The porch light cast a soft glow on Clara's tired face. She wiped her tears quickly, embarrassed to be crying in front of him, but Thomas didn't judge. He had grown up watching his own mother struggle to keep their family together. He knew what love could make a person do. "I can't promise you anything right now," he finally said gently. "But I hear you, Clara. I really do." Clara nodded slowly, even though her heart still pounded with fear. She wasn't sure if he would allow her to stay, but at least she had spoken her truth. That alone gave her a strange sense of peace. As she turned to look through the window, she saw Lily spinning around with Emma in the living room, laughing as the dog barked playfully. For the first time in many months, Lily looked free, not just safe, but joyful. And Clara realized something important. Her love for Lily wasn't about holding on too tight. It was about staying connected, no matter what shape that connection took. Thomas stood quietly beside her, his mind turning over everything she had said. He wasn't a man who rushed decisions, but something about this night felt different. It wasn't just an evening anymore. It was the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. Clara took a deep breath and stepped down from the porch, the night air cool against her skin. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. She would fight, not with anger but with love, to be part of her daughter's life. And for Thomas, the ranch that had always felt steady and predictable suddenly felt like it might hold more than he had ever planned. Not just a child, but a story of love, loss, and maybe a second chance for them all. That night after Clara left the ranch, Thomas couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch with the stars shining above him. The ranch had always been quiet at night, but this time the silence felt different. Clara's words were still echoing in his head. "You adopted my daughter? Now you must take me too." He wasn't an emotional man, but her voice had carried something so raw and honest that it had stayed with him. He knew she wasn't asking for pity. She wasn't trying to cause trouble. She was simply a mother, heartbroken and desperate to remain close to her child. Inside the house, Emma was tucking Lily into bed. The little girl was tired but happy. She had spent the evening drawing with Emma and telling stories about the funny horse that had licked her hand earlier. When Emma turned off the lamp, Lily whispered, "Mommy came today." Emma smiled softly. "Yes, she did. She missed me," Lily said with sleepy eyes. "She did," Emma replied gently, brushing Lily's hair. "She loves you very much." Lily nodded slowly. "I love her too." When Lily finally drifted off to sleep, Emma joined Thomas on the porch. She could tell from his face that he hadn't moved on from the conversation. "She loves her daughter," Emma said softly, sitting beside him. "I know," Thomas replied, looking down at his hands. "And she's not wrong. We took her daughter. We promised to give her a better life. But we didn't promise to erase her mother. And she doesn't want to be erased," Emma sighed. "I've been thinking the same. Clara is not asking for money or a favor. She's asking for a chance to still be in her daughter's life." Thomas turned his head toward her. "You're not against the idea?" Emma shook her head. "Not at all. I saw the way Lily ran into her arms. That kind of bond doesn't go away. If we try to cut her out completely, we'd only hurt Lily in the long run. She needs to feel loved, by us and by the woman who gave her life." Thomas leaned back on the wooden chair. He had always believed family wasn't just about blood. It was about love, trust, and care. But now, he was learning that sometimes family could be bigger than the lines people usually draw. The next morning, the sky was bright and blue. Clara woke up in her tiny room back in town. She didn't sleep much either. She had replayed every word she said to Thomas, wondering if she'd gone too far. Part of her felt foolish for asking, but the bigger part of her heart knew she had no other choice. She walked to work at the diner, wearing the same faded blue dress. The bell above the door rang as she entered. The smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air. Her coworker Marie greeted her with a smile. "You okay, Clara?" Marie asked kindly. Clara forced a small smile. "Yeah, just tired," but inside she was anything but okay. She missed Lily. Even the busy sound of plates clinking and customers talking couldn't fill the emptiness she felt. She wiped tables, served coffee, and smiled at strangers. But her heart was miles away, back at the ranch. Meanwhile, at the ranch, Thomas and Emma sat at the kitchen table, sipping their morning coffee. Lily was drawing a picture with crayons. She drew 3 figures, herself in the middle, Emma on one side, and Clara on the other. She drew them all holding hands. Thomas noticed the drawing. His heart softened. It was a child's simple world. In her world, love wasn't a competition. It was something you shared. Later that afternoon, Thomas saddled his horse and rode into town. He stopped in front of the diner and waited for Clara to finish her shift. She stepped outside nervously, wiping her hands on her apron. "Thomas," she said softly, surprised to see him there. "Can we talk?" he asked kindly. They walked to a nearby bench under a tree. The wind was gentle and the streets were quiet. Clara kept her eyes on the ground. "I thought a lot about what you said last night," Thomas began slowly. "I can't imagine what you're feeling." "I can only try to understand it. You love your daughter. That's clear." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. "She's all I have." "I know," he said. "And Lily loves you too. We saw it, we felt it. She needs you in her life, so we want to find a way to make that happen." Clara's head shot up, her eyes wide. "What?" "I talked to Emma," Thomas continued. "If you're truly willing to work and stay close, we can give you a place at the ranch. Not as a guest, but as part of the family. You'll have your own room. You can help around. And you can see Lily every day." Clara covered her mouth with her hands as tears streamed down her face. She had prepared herself for rejection, not kindness. "You'd do that for me?" she whispered. "We're not doing it just for you," Thomas said softly. "We're doing it for Lily. She deserves to feel whole. And we believe that means having you around." Clara couldn't stop crying. They weren't fancy tears. They were the kind that come from a heart that has carried too much pain for too long and finally feels a bit of relief. "Thank you," she said over and over. "Thank you so much," Thomas gave a small smile. "We'll figure out the details. But this can work, if we all work together." The next few days were busy and full of changes. Clara packed the few things she owned into a small suitcase. She left her old apartment behind, not because it was perfect at the ranch, but because it was where her daughter was. When she arrived at the ranch, Lily ran to her again, just like that first night. But this time, Clara didn't have to let go and walk away. She got to stay. Emma showed her the small but cozy room near the kitchen. It wasn't much, but it was warm, clean, and safe. Clara placed Lily's old teddy bear on the bed. For the first time in a long time, she felt she belonged somewhere. Thomas gave her small tasks around the ranch, feeding the chickens, helping in the garden, preparing meals with Emma. Clara worked hard. She wanted to prove she wasn't a burden. She wanted to earn the trust they had given her. But the most precious part of her day was Lily. They spent their mornings picking flowers near the fence and their evenings reading stories under the porch light. Lily loved having both her moms around, Emma helping her learn to ride a pony, and Clara braiding her hair afterward. One evening, as the sun was setting again, Clara stood on the porch with Emma. They watched Lily chase fireflies on the grass. "You're good with her," Emma said gently. Clara smiled softly. "She's my heart. Always has been." Emma looked at her, not as a stranger anymore, but as someone who shared something special. "You know, I used to be afraid that she'd love you more than me." Clara shook her head. "Love doesn't work like that. She can love us both," Emma nodded. "I see that now. And I'm glad you're here, Clara." Those words warmed Clara more than she could explain. She had come to the ranch as a desperate mother. Now she was slowly becoming part of something bigger, a family built not by blood or paper but by kindness, understanding, and shared love. Weeks passed, and life found a new rhythm. Thomas worked on the ranch during the day. Emma taught Lily how to read, and Clara helped with chores and made the home feel even more alive. Laughter echoed through the walls every evening. The people in town began to talk, but not in a cruel way. They admired the rancher and his wife for their open hearts. They admired Clara for her strength and grace. And most of all, they admired little Lily, who had brought them all together without even trying. One night, as they all sat around the dinner table, Lily suddenly stood up on her chair with the confidence only a child could have. She raised her tiny arms and declared, "We are a team." Everyone laughed. But in those simple words there was truth. They were a team, 3 adults and 1 little girl, learning how to build a home that didn't follow the usual rules but was filled with love. After dinner, when Lily was asleep, Thomas stood outside looking at the stars again. But this time the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt peaceful. Clara joined him and Emma followed. They didn't need many words. Just standing there together felt enough. Clara thought back to the night she had walked to the ranch gate for the first time, scared, broken, unsure of the future. And now she stood on the same porch, but everything was different. She wasn't a stranger anymore. She wasn't just a poor woman asking for a chance. She was part of a family. She silently thanked God for giving her the courage to speak those words that night. "You adopted my daughter. Now you must take me too." Those words had opened the door to something she had never expected. Not just a second chance for her, but a bigger, brighter future for all of them. The ranch no longer belonged to just Thomas and Emma. It now held 3 hearts and 1 little girl's laughter, wrapped together like the wind that danced through the fields. And that was something stronger than any paper, stronger than any fear. It was love, real, quiet, steady love.